Typhoon Podul is making landfall in Taiwan as a high-end Category 2 storm on the South Pacific Hurricane Wind Scale. An intensifying storm still as it heads into Taiwan here. Could it reach major typhoon status, Category 3 on the South Pacific Hurricane Wind Scale in the next few hours? It absolutely could. Right now, we're giving it winds of 110 miles per hour, 965 millibars on the pressure, moving northwest at 17 miles per hour, and we are very high-end code orange on T-coast for this storm right now. A substantially higher intensity estimate, or peak intensity estimate, that we were going to be seeing than originally thought, as the storm has overperformed the environment greatly. So here's where the storm is located right now. It's 65 miles from Taitung, 69 from Tamale, 73 from Changong, 81 from Penguin, and 197 from Taipei. My apologies on the pronunciations of those if I got any of those incorrect. These numbers are just a little bit out of date, maybe by a few more minutes, but they should be as accurate as possible. We are really nailing down these numbers in terms of the production of its update here. But either way, closing in on Taiwan here as it moves into Taiwan here as a Category 2 on the South Pacific Wind Scale. So the storm right now is a very large storm, 130 nautical miles maximum in terms of the tropical storm force winds on the northeastern side. Typhoon warnings, of course, remain in effect for many counties and cities in Taiwan. They've extended it northward 2 counties since Nathan's previous alert from a few hours ago. But once again, those typhoon warnings do remain in place for large parts of central and southern Taiwan. Taipei, however, not included in that typhoon warning. Those strong wind gusts are possible in Taipei, and of course that flash flooding threat in the outer bands of Typhoon Podul. So as I said, Typhoon Puddle is still an intensifying storm and almost at the Category 3 status. Could it get to Category 3 status before landfall? It absolutely could. But if it's going to do that, I only think it's going to get up to 115 miles per hour in terms of 1 minute sustained winds. Wind gusts in the storm could reach as high as 140, maybe 145 miles per hour, which these kind of winds are capable of causing catastrophic damage. High rainfall rates up to 350 millimeters are also possible in the landfall area, and this could lead to some very catastrophic flash flooding threats, and especially those could be exacerbated in mountainous areas, which would also prolong the landslide and flooding and runoff problems that we could be seeing in Taiwan with this storm. So the storm is forecast to move quickly inland. You'll see it make landfall here, illustrated on this as a Category 1 in mainland China. That's probably not going to be happening. We're probably going to be seeing a landfall around a mid-tropical storm at most in terms of landfall in central China, but very quickly weakening as it moves inland into China, and by 2 days from now it'll be dead over mainland China, moving off towards the west-northwest, and its energy will be quickly dissipating over China. And of course the HWC's forecast cone reflects that. Very quick weakening here as it moves into Taiwan. You know, Taiwan is a very mountainous nation, so it has been known to kill off these kind of storms very, very quickly, and this isn't really going to be different. Not as quick as, say, some smaller storms that we've already seen, such as Dinas earlier on this year. That was a very quick weakening storm. Dinas was a lot smaller of a core than what we're seeing with Puddle. You know, Puddle is a very large storm compared to Dinas, so it might be a little bit more resilient to that mountain nation. Either way, very quick weakening on the forecast regardless. Satellite estimates are in unanimous agreement of at least a Category 2 on the South Pacific Wind Scale. ADT down at 90 miles per hour though, or 80 miles per hour, I apologize. So a very solid Category 2. We've gone with 110 miles per hour based on the continuing improvement on satellite imagery and microwave passes that we've been seeing. We'll have to wait and see what separate observations ultimately say. So here's what the GFS model is seeing right now. I believe this is the exact same from Nathan's update earlier. Very quick weakening as it moves into Taiwan, as has been saying. Maybe another storm forming back behind Puddle. I believe that we're getting a 30% chance of formation on that particular storm behind Puddle. We'll have to wait and see on that, what that storm ends up doing. But our main focus right now is, of course, on Puddle. You know, does it make it to Category 3 status? We'll have to wait and see on that. It's got a little bit of time to go with. It's got the conditions too. All that it needs is the storm itself to get there. Although, looking on the latest data imagery, it's not looking too promising, has to be said, for a Category 3 peak. We'll have to wait and see though. So here's what the rainfall threat is saying right now. You know, it's got that rainfall threat. You saw those deeper colors as the storm moved into Taiwan, and then they really laid off on the high colors as the storm moved into Taiwan, as the storm lost some of that energy. There's that storm forming behind Puddle, moving northward, bypassing Taiwan to the east. A little bit uncertain on the track of that storm, though. You know, let's get through Puddle first before we worry about the next one. Not really going to be seeing too much of a rainfall threat in terms of mainland China. Maybe up to 200 millimeters, maybe up to 300, maybe in some isolated spots. Not going to be too high of an isolated rainfall threat here in China, but the main threat for rainfall is, of course, going to be on the eastern slope of Taiwan, and you can see that it being reflected here in the GFS model run. There's that storm forming behind, so it might be inflating a little bit of those rainfall values that we're seeing here. Maybe up to 11 inches of rainfall here, closer towards the coastline of Taiwan, maybe closer to 11 inches and a half. But back in these areas here where we're going to be seeing both Puddle and that storm behind track, maybe up to 20-25 inches here, back down towards the Philippines, and a monsoonal mess in the South China Sea producing heavy rainfall just off the coast of Vietnam. You know, that is kind of normal, but might be some associated with the outer bands of Typhoon Podul, but not really going to be seeing too bad of a rainfall threat here as it goes into mainland China. You know, you might see up to 6 inches or so in terms of rainfall threat in the Hong Kong area too. So Hong Kong, look out for this storm too. You're just because it's going to go to your north does not mean your yards are clear. Water temperatures are more than enough to sustain development. If the storm were to try to intensify in the South China Sea, I don't really think it will, primarily due to the cores being completely destroyed by the mountainous areas of Taiwan. We're going to be seeing probably a more weakening trend due to land interaction post-Taiwan with this storm, but those water temperatures do remain favorable even after Podul's track. These water temperatures are going to sustain further development for any storms behind Typhoon Podul. We'll have to wait and see though what those storms end up doing. Water temperatures are more than enough to favor Podul reaching Category 3 status. Once again, only the storm structure is for what's preventing it from reaching that Category 3 status. Water temperatures in the Taiwan Strait here not looking too favorable though, so that might impede any potential redevelopment that the storm might have, if at all. Once again, I really don't think it will have any, but we'll have to wait and see. Something to watch always with these kind of storms that move into these kind of areas here. Not really going to be seeing too much in terms of these surface observations right now. You can see a surface observation station just to the west of the storm center producing a pressure of 1,001 millibars and dropping. So the storm's influence is moving inland here, but something that I'm noting here regarding that 1,001 millibar station, look at the winds, not particularly high. So maybe the core is a little bit tighter than we originally thought. We'll have to wait and see though. The radar side of things, presentation does indicate that the storm does have a core and is trying to reach Category 3 status. We'll have to wait and see if it gets there though. Most models are in unanimous agreement of the storm moving off towards the west-northwest into Taiwan very quickly, and then moving into China here very quickly as well. And where does it go after that? We'll have to wait and see though, but the storm's going to be probably a remnant low at least by 36 hours, if not sooner, over mainland China. Once again, very weakening very quickly over Taiwan and China due to land interaction. You know, storms do not like land at all if they want to continue to intensify. So that is going to be something to note really here. The HWR very instantly thinks that the storm will get to Category 4 status. I don't think it will, given that it's got maybe 3 hours or so until landfall in Taiwan. So time is running out for the storm to reach Category 4 status. I don't think it will. I think that the storm is probably reaching its peak density right about now. Wind shear is still hit or miss, but with the storm moving into Taiwan, any wind shear route is really going to offset that, primarily due to land interaction. That's going to kill off any sort of hope of the storm intensifying. Steep temperatures is not really going to be mattering for the next few days. That the storm's going to be inland and relative humidity on the climb, so that might exacerbate a little bit of the flooding threat here. Only going to add to the moisture that the storm is already going to have. These kind of storms can produce big flooding in Taiwan, and that's been known to cause fatalities. So satellite imagery side of things, sun just rising over the visible picture here. It's got an eye somewhat. It's not too pretty. We've seen prettier storms moving into Taiwan here, but we've also seen messy Category 4s move into Taiwan, especially over the last few years. So it's trying to reach major typhoon status, I should say. So it is trying to do that. Remains to be seen though if it will get there though. It's got some time to work with, so it's got a few more hours to reach that status. The infrared picture here showing that this storm does have good cloud tops, maybe a little bit of wind shear coming from the northern side of the circulation. That's why you're seeing those those colder cloud tops primarily on the southern side of the circulation. Remains to be seen, though, if that is going to be where the primary rainfall threat is going to be setting up, because interestingly, the GFS has the heavy rainfall threat on the eastern coastline, a little bit maybe toward the north of the landfall zone. We'll have to wait and see, though. You have to moderate as the storm moves inland here. Heavy rainfall threat, a Category 2, maybe a Category 3 landfall here on the cards for Taiwan. You know, it seems like that they get these at least once a year, it seems like. So Taiwan, another major typhoon threat here, moving inland in the form of Typhoon Podul. A Category 2 intensifying as it moves into Taiwan here. High in Category 2 on the South Pacific Hurricane wind scale.